Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's that time again. We are on volume 62 and they are going to Fishman Island. Let's talk about One Piece. So when we left the Straw Hats, they were being attacked on their way to Fishman Island by the two pirates, blood-soaked Caribou and wet-haired Caribou? I should have looked up the pronunciation of those names. I did not. That was a mistake. But the funny part is they run into Momu from Arlong, which actually plays in towards the end of this volume. But if you didn't know, we have a lot of chapters to get through for this Fishman Island arc. So I didn't want it to be 2 hours. You know what I mean? Like who's got 2 hours to talk about One Piece? I do. Well, actually. Would you guys like longer videos? Let me know in the comments below before we get started. Or do you kind of like, I try to keep them around 20 minutes. Is that like too short, too long? Yeah, let me know. It's actually a good question, me. Thanks, me. You're welcome. But I thought that was so cool of Oda to like throw that kind of throwback in there. I really enjoyed it. I was like, I know that. I know them. But no, here's what I loved about this volume. Like the first half was kind of like their journey, and you know, it was fine. It was cool. I really liked how, I think it was wet-haired Caribou, like, hid in the barrel, and then Frank was like, if he was any smarter, we wouldn't have found him, and he would have been a threat. But like, this guy, he's not a threat. Like, this is the first volume that really has, it's after the time skip. It's after everything. We've been reintroduced to these characters 2 years later. Like, this is the perfect point for Oda to do that. Show us like, hey, this crew has trained, and they are not the same crew they were 2 years ago. Like, Luffy used Gear 3, and it was color of arms hardening. Like, he's already throwing out new moves. Zoro threw out some new moves. Sanji launches himself out of the bubble. It's not like he's focusing on it, but it's little bits and pieces to give, like, me, as I'm reading this, like, oh, there's more. Like, they haven't even really tried yet, you know, because they're just kind of getting away from these two dumb pirates. They haven't really shown us, or me, well, they've probably shown you at this point, but me, what they're really capable of. And that is so exciting. And we run into another face that we know, which is Cammy, who they rescued in the archipelago with, like, Law and all them. So it was really good to see her. I was like, I know you too! It's little bits and pieces. It's bringing characters back from, like, they mentioned Arlong, which is way long time ago. And even Cammy, who's more recent, but I really like when a manga does this, and I really like when One Piece does it, which is bringing characters from past arcs or stories. It just makes the world feel more alive. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what makes One Piece so unique, and especially the One Piece world. It does make it feel like the side characters are having their own journey. You know, like a lot of stories that you read, the side characters are in it for like the bits that they're supposed to be in it for the story. And then you never see them again. It's like they just... I know. Listen, I know. It's not a... We're not talking about comic books, we're talking about mangas, but I mean, listen, the snap... Come on. I try. But in the One Piece world, the side characters are so interesting because it does feel like anytime we meet them again, and we do meet a lot of side characters again, they have had their own journey and their own story happening, which makes them 10 times more interesting than most side characters in other manga and works of fiction, in my opinion. So when they get to Fishman Island, besides Sanji almost dying from blood loss because his training did not work, he still very much loves the ladies. Sanji, come on, man. Come on. Have some class. They're going to hold a banquet because the Straw Hats have saved the shark of the princess. But they run into this Charlie, the fortune teller, that basically says the Straw Hats are going to bring destruction to Fishman Island. And then the whole island turns on. Here's the thing. What if she's wrong? I hate that, like, in movies and stuff, you can be like, oh, future crimes? Arrested. Lock them up. Makes no sense. So since the island has turned on them, Luffy's already gone because he smelled food. You know, dude's gotta eat. Dude loves to eat. But Usopp, Nami, and Brook are still in meeting with King Neptune. Zoro has already been at the banquet. They're like, that dude's already been drinking. Again, Zoro gets lost so easily, but he's always in the spot he needs to be. And Luffy stumbles upon the princess because he smelled the food. And he stops the axe because we come to find out she's been locked up for 10 years. First off, she's gigantic. If Sanji sees her, it's going to be a problem. Like, he is not going to make it. She's been locked up in the castle for 10 years because of Vander Decken, who is eating the Mark fruit, which is basically like, hey, whatever he aims at, he always hits. So he threw an axe and Luffy actually stopped it. And Luffy is so mean to this princess. He's like, you're stupid. I don't like you at all. You've been locked up for 10 years. It's got to be boring. Like, let's go do something. And so with the island basically trying to arrest the Straw Hats now because of this future prediction from Charlotte, we actually get to see Brook, Chopper. We almost see Zoro. We're like very, very close to actually seeing Zoro. We get to see the Straw Hats training for the last 2 years because they wipe the floor with the guards and everyone at the castle. I'm talking about, you know what I really liked? Brook pulls out this sword. And even one of the characters says, I don't remember the skeleton being so reliable. And like so not scared. That is what I am so excited about coming up in these next few volumes, is to actually get to see the Straw Hats change. Because I think that they have gotten way more confident. Even Luffy, when the princess says, you know, they're going after your crew, he's like, wow, trust me, your guys are not going to be able to handle my crew. Like, I'm not worried about them in the least. And he shouldn't be, because they didn't stand a chance. So now, they've kidnapped the king. They're really in a pickle right this very minute. And then one of the last things we learn about in this volume is Jimbei has left a message for Straw Hat Luffy. One is, don't fight Hody, which Hody and Drekken have now teamed up because they basically want to bring the Fishmen, kind of like what Arlong did. They want to show that the Fishmen are like the strongest on the planet or strongest in the world. And Jimbei has left a message, Luffy, don't fight Hody, and I'll see you at the Sea of Trees. And that is where we leave them in volume 62. The Straw Hats are now kidnappers. Sanji and Chopper are on their way because Sanji needs to see the princess, obviously. And Luffy has shoved the princess into the shark, and he's going to the Sea of Trees. This volume had a hard job of basically being the first volume after the time skip. So it's a lot of setup, and especially it's setting up a new arc, so I'll give it that. There was not a lot of action, but the action that was there was so good. But it planted the seeds that these Straw Hats are very different Straw Hats than we left 2 years ago, which I loved. I loved about this volume. And now it seems like since they've established Fishman Island, and they've established kind of like the story of Fishman Island and kind of who the bad guys are of this arc, I think volume 63, we're in it now. This was the setup volume, and I cannot wait for volume 63. So it's only going to be a few seconds for you, but let me go read volume 63. Volume 63. So much happened. So much happened in volume 63. So it is split into what I think is like two parts. So we have present time with Luffy and the Straw Hats and everything going on with Fishman Island. And in the back half of the volume we find out about like Tiger and how Arlong's gang was formed. Like, volume was dense. It was very, very dense. I think it's pretty long too. I think it was like 230 pages of just information. Building Fishman Island. And I know I say like One Piece does all this very well. World building. In one volume, Oda has built Fishman Island and a history of Fishman Island and history of new characters we were just introduced to in 230 pages. It's kind of crazy if you really think about it. So Luffy has stuffed the princess into the shark, and they are headed to the Forest of the Seas. I might have said the Sea of the Forest or something. I feel like I haven't looked at the footage yet. I feel like volume 62, I said it wrong. Like in the first part of this video, I feel like I did. I haven't looked at the footage. You will probably have seen by this point a piece of text. But it is called, let's double check, Forest of the Sea. But before Luffy can arrive at the Forest of the Sea, Sanji stumbles upon Hitachi? I gotta get that name right one of these days. And he looks dead. He's got arrows in him and everything. And on top of that, Hody and Vandekin are basically trying to unite Fishman Island by starting a war. Because if we haven't learned anything from any shonen manga, the best way to unite a city or an island is to start a war. So it's probably going to end up well. But I really did like this part. Zoro and Hody go at it, and he basically jumps into the water with this fishman. Like, of course, Zoro's just like, I know this is your home turf, I'm going to beat you at your home turf. Spoilers, they don't get to that fight in this volume, but I bet it's going to be a good one. I hope it's in the next volume. But it probably will be, because they can't go back to Zoro's thing without actually solving it, because he literally is facing off against him in the water. But one of the best moments happens when Luffy finally gets to the Forest of the Sea. First off, he meets Jimbei, and they do learn that... I think they learn. I'm pretty sure we didn't know this up until this point. Jimbei was part of Arlong's crew. In the very beginning with Tiger and all that. I'm pretty sure that's new. It felt new information when I read it. But the actual one of... Oh! One of my favorite Sanji moments happened. It's Sanji and Chopper. So the princess gets thrown up from the shark, and she lands behind Sanji, and Sanji has his back turned and is looking at Chopper. Chopper sees the giant mermaid, and Chopper is like, Sanji, dude, don't look behind you. Hey, do not look behind you. If you look behind you, you will die. There's no other way around it. And Sanji's like, if I can't, achieve my dream. And then even Chopper's like, I thought your dream was the all blue, man. Dude, it was so good. And he turns around and basically hearts pop out and he turns to stone. And it was, for what we're about to get into, which is, I think, some really good storytelling that they're doing right now. It was a perfect spot to add this comedy to it. It made me laugh. So I think I actually put the volume. I was like, man, this Sanji, man, come on, like. He was just like, if I cannot achieve this dream, I am worth nothing. Oh, it was so good. This to me is where we get into like the meat of this volume, which is kind of the flashback, and it's Jimbei telling Luffy and all them what happened with himself, Arlong, Tiger, the Queen, Fishman Island. Like, this is where we get into building what Fishman Island is. So when we go into the flashback of Fishman Island and Tiger and Arlong and Jimbei, I wasn't expecting Oda to tell this kind of story. Let me explain. So what I meant when I said I wasn't expecting this kind of story is really Tiger's character specifically. So we're introduced when he's come back from an adventure, and there's young Arlong, young Jimbei, young Hody, all of the characters that we were introduced to in Fishman Island, except for Jimbei, we've known him. But this is what I really wanted to talk about. Like, it is great world building and character building, but the message that Oda put into this story that I just wasn't expecting. So Tiger comes back and they get the pirates back together, and this girl Koala, which is from Marajora, I believe, she was taken as slavery, and she comes in and everyone's like, hey man, she's kind of smiling a lot. Like her smile is kind of creeping everybody out. But then Tiger kind of locks in on it. And it's because she has been a slave to these people. And her coping mechanism is like, she's cleaning, or, you know, she'll do whatever you need her to do, just don't kill her, you know? Like, if she believes, and the reason that she's on this ship is to get back to her mother. And I just wasn't expecting it. I just wasn't expecting that kind of story. And then I really wasn't expecting where he goes with that story. And where he goes with that story is, you have, like, Arlong, and all these fishmen that are like, humans bad, they treat us like garbage, this, that, and the other. And then he says something that was so poignant, it kind of took my breath. And he said, no, we're going to take her back to her island because we can't let the kids know about this hate. And that message is solidified very much later on when he dies, because he takes her back to her mother, and everything seems great, but he is ambushed by the Marines and shot. And in his dying words, he said, don't tell anybody what happened here. We can't let the younger generation be tainted by what the current generation is doing. I'm going to be honest with you. That kind of message, and the way that he did it, and to have this character come into this story for a short amount of time, but say something so incredibly poignant is crazy. And to say something that, honestly, it's one of those things, like, yeah, we read this stuff for entertainment, but you can learn from something like that. I don't know, like, maybe I read too much into it. It hit me at a right time, and in a weird way, that it really stuck with me. And it really stuck with me with his thing of the only way for current things to change is for the current generation to not taint the younger generation. And again, it's kind of bookended with when the Queen is getting a bunch of signatures from the Celestial Dragons and her people to basically have a treaty where they can live in harmony with the humans. And the first people to come up are the kids. And she says, you give me so much hope. But that's the thing when I said I wasn't expecting, because I knew he had to build this world and build this backstory of Fishman Island, because as you guys have told me, it's about 50 or so chapters. But to put in there something for a shonen manga or a kid's entertainment, to put something in there like, hey, that's some real world life advice. I don't know, I just think Tiger's character was done so well, and the Queen's character was done so well. Both of them ended up dying. I don't know if there was correlation with that. Weird, but both of those characters were done so well. It just, that whole bit of the backstory, I really thought was something so special. And for this pirate, because, and that's, I forgot to say this, is we learn where he came from his adventure. He was held captive and a slave at this same place. And that's why he freed all the slaves and all. Like, for him to go, I'm getting chilled. From him to go through all of that and to still help this girl because he understands her pain, and that's why he understood what she was doing with the smiling and always cleaning and this and that. But to not grow cold and bitter from that, but instead be like, no, this is how we can change it. We can only change it by not tainting our future. We can only help our future in our present by not telling them about the past. It's a weird time thing, I'll give you that. But that is truthfully what he believed, and it was... That Tiger character was so well done. I really enjoyed his character. But we also learned that the princess can talk to Neptunians, something even her father can't do, and there's only one mermaid in every few centuries that's able to do that. But the problem with that is, if she experiences something traumatic, she can't control it as of now in this timeline. So they could wreak havoc. Which is very important for what's about to come up. So her mother, the queen, had started the ballots, and everyone in Fishman Island was giving her ballots. Like, they were easily going to get enough signatures to make this kind of treaty and live peacefully. But then all of a sudden, the ballots catch fire. That's not the worst thing that happens. The queen gets shot. And this is another emotional punch. This volume was filled with, like, so many emotional punches. I mean, Sanji got turned to stone. But it was filled with so many emotional punches. And this one was up there with Tiger. She had 3 brothers, and the queen said, you have to be strong and protect your sister because we can't let anything traumatic happen to her. So they're watching their mother die, essentially. And their sister is about to cry. And the brothers break into this dance kind of, how, like, when you're growing up, you're like, oh, look at these face, blah, blah, blah. Weird. I'm sorry. But you know how, like, to get a baby to kind of stop crying. That's what they do. But the way Oda draws them, there's tears coming down their face because they are losing their mother. It was really emotional. And even when they're losing their mother, they're keeping their word to the queen to protect their sister. Like, it was weirdly super emotional. And I really loved it. Really loved it. I will say, like, because I know I'm kind of, like, known, like, I really like the action stuff. What I'm surprised about, or what has surprised me most about this journey through One Piece, is I love the action stuff. Like, Luffy going Gear 2, Gear 3, I'm into it. But Oda's ability to do emotion, and the smaller moments in One Piece really impress me more and more and more as we get deeper into this story. And this is just another example, because you can feel her brothers, like, tears as they're trying to be strong for their mother. Really well done. Super well done. Super well done. And that is where we leave off in volume 63. Like I said, I just was not expecting this volume to have so many emotional punches. It blew my mind in some of the best way possible. It's super... Man, I keep saying super... I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm just so blown away by... how... You know what's crazy? You should... If we go... I'm thinking about going back and watching, like, my first One Piece video. Because I have switched. I really like the action, but it's the small character moments, and this volume is a prime example of that, because it has so many. It's the small character moments that are really keeping me going through this journey. And it's kind of slowly becoming my favorite. Shh, keep that between us. I still like the punches. Testosterone. But no, seriously, the small character moments are incredible. But I also cannot wait for the Zoro fight coming up. I feel like it's going to be amazing. And being able to see what the Straw Hats have been training for. So, let's get to volume 64.